Welcome to Supply Chain Management, Module 2, Strategic Sourcing. This is the third part. In this part, we will be discussing about economies of scale and sourcing strategy. This PPT has been prepared by referring many sources from the internet, notes and videos, and exclusively used for the purpose of education. Let us understand what is economies of scale. Economies of scale are cost advantages reaped by the companies when production becomes efficient. Companies can achieve economies of scale by increasing production and lowering costs. To put it in a nutshell, see, when I have created a facility that produces up to 1000 units per month, it could be cars or it could be anything, that's what I said, 1000 units per month, and currently I am doing only 100 units per month. I am not able to raise it to the level of production capacity of the industry, even though there is demand outside for my product. Then I am doing a very big mistake. Why? The reason is quite simple. I have already invested, the total fixed cost has amounted to go up to 1000 units per month, but even though I have the demand for my product, I am not able to do that because of internal reasons, maybe the lack of skills, maybe the investment, maybe I am not able to plan my supply chain properly. Because of all these things, I am not able to reap the cost advantages. This is what is meant by economies of scale. For example, see, Walmart's everyday low prices are due to its huge buying power. Even Amazon's Festival of Festivals also improves the economies of scale. What are these things? The reason is very simple. See, when they announce Festival of Festivals or everyday low prices, big bazaars, Wednesday bazaar, what do? They keep the price minimum, they keep their profit minimum to an extent of say just about 5 or 8%. They do not even go up to 10-15%. They keep it at single digit, say 5%, 8%. But the volume that they are able to sell in the markets will be so huge because of the attraction that they reap the economies of scale. The amount of the quantities of the product sold becomes so large, they scale it up, to a very high extent, that results in a huge inflow of revenue to them, though profit margin is very less. This is one example of economies of scale. In that way, they can clear all the stocks that were pending from long time. They can clear that. They can attract new customers to their ambit. They can create a goodwill with the existing customers. These are some of the advantages of economies of scale. Firms that specialize in production of input can usually achieve higher economies of scale versus vertically integrated firms. Vertically integrated firms produces only for its internal needs. See, vertical integration means they try to acquire various companies or various organizations in the supply chain. In other words, they try to expand the supply chain. They try to move to different parts of the supply chain. Whereas horizontally integrated firms, they try to acquire companies of similar kind. See, for example, if Snapdeal acquires, say, Flipkart, then it becomes horizontal acquisition or horizontally integrated firms. If uh, Amazon, or if a company which is good in production acquires a marketing company, then it becomes a vertically integrated firm. See now, vertically integrated firms, they produce only for their internal needs. They are trying to expand their supply chain. As a result, what is happening? The works done by someone else, they are doing. Why they are doing? They are doing for their internal needs. They are trying to improve their sales, right? Whatever they are doing, it is for their own benefit. Whereas if I have an external supplier, what I can if I order, if I outsource my products, if I outsource my services to an external firm, what he can do? He can, yeah, acquire similar kind of orders from various other companies, and he can enjoy a huge economies of scale. Let me take a very simple example. Let us assume Toyota or Maruti are able to sell say 5,000 cars per month. Okay. And what is the total number of tires required for them? 5,000 into 4, 20,000 tires. Okay, that is the requirement per month. In order to produce 20,000 tires per month, the amount of investment that you need to set up a factory is very huge. Whereas MRF and all those things may be producing nearly 1 lakh tires per month. They are enjoying the economies of scale because for them only Toyota is not the only customer. They will be supplying to Toyota, Maruti, Honda, and many other car and two wheel companies. So this is what is meant by economies of scale. There are four major sources of economies of scale. First one is higher volume allows a firm to spread its fixed cost over a large volume of operations. Higher volume allows a firm to choose more efficient technologies. Pooling of buffer capacities and inventories. And finally, learning curve effect. There are four ways in which economies of scale can be enjoyed. Let us discuss one by one in detail. First one, higher volume allows a firm to spread its fixed cost over a large volume of operations. Let us understand what fixed cost is. Fixed cost is the initial investment on industries, factories, building, equipments, which are one-time investment. Okay, and you need them to ramp up production. In order to start production, you need that minimum facilities to be established for in a company, and that is termed as fixed cost. Okay, now as I was giving an example of 1,000 units per month, I have already invested on fixed costs total amount worth up to 1,000 units per month, and if I am not meeting that particular capacity, even though I have the demand in the market, then I am at fault. Suppose there is no demand in the market. See, for example, Tata Nano had the production capacity of 5,000 cars per month, but it never reached that level. Maximum demand, the maximum sales or maximum demand that occur was something around 1,200, 1,300 per month. That's all. Later, it had its own difficulties, it had its own problems, and the production had to be stopped. The project had to be called off. So now it's a big loss for Tata because they had set up the plant which can go up to 5,000 cars per month, but unfortunately they did not go. This is what happens when you do not use your production capacity properly. So when you increase the higher volume, obviously that fixed cost, instead of being spread on 100 units, gets spread on 1000 units uniformly. As a result, fixed cost per unit gets reduced. That helps me to enjoy the economies of scale, that helps me to control the cost, that helps me to fix the price at a lower level so that I can have a very good say in the market. A bus carrying passengers, say for example, normally the bus capacity is a 36 seaters, a sleeper bus, and if it doesn't have 36 seaters, it's a loss for that, because driver, cleaner, fuel, they are all same. And if you do not run at 36 capacity, and if you run at 50% capacity, it's a loss for you. You cannot increase the ticket price. That's totally not permitted, because price is not controlled by the companies, price is controlled by the customer, only cost can be controlled by the companies. So that is how you can enjoy the economies of scale, by seeing that all the 36 seats are filled. Another example I can take is that you would have invested for 60 intake in engineering colleges. That facility is already there, and you need not have to add any facilities to that already existing lab facilities. Better raise the intake to 120 if demand is there. That's what. Provided demand is there, you better increase it to 120, because except for the faculties, lab equipments, fixed costs, you need not have to invest anything. Similarly, manufacturing firm, running cost increases as the volume of production increases, but the fixed cost gets distributed over the number of units manufactured. Of course, running costs or the variable cost gets reduced, I mean to say gets increased. Per unit, variable cost per unit, that gets increased. What are those variable costs? Cost on the labor, cost on the raw material, cost on the overheads, like see telephone charges, electricity charges, maintenance charges, warehouse charges. They are all variable costs. That increases as the volume of production increases, that increases. But fixed cost gets distributed. Variable cost increases, fixed cost reduces, per unit reduces. In that way, I can enjoy the economies of scale. IT companies preferring work from home option has reduced their cost. That is another relevant example in the present context. Earlier, the IT companies had to pay lakhs of rupees on rent for the building. Not only that, the electricity bill used to go up to 20-25 lakhs per month. Those things have come down now. They need not have to pay any rent. They need not have to, first of all, they need not have to think of even constructing any new building. So fixed cost has become zero now. Variable cost has reduced. So in this way, and now they can hire more number of people. They can get more projects and they can hire more number of people. Earlier they were reluctant to hire more number of people, because that would have added cost to them, because if they hire more number of people, they need to provide them working space. If they they have to provide transportation facilities. All those troubles were there, but now work from home, recruit, everything happens virtual via virtual environment, and the candidates get selected. HR manager may not see the face of the candidate face to face, maybe via virtual mode, only over via video conferencing they would have seen, but the advantage they can reap. Second one is higher volume allows a firm to choose more efficient technologies. Now you are at an advantage of reduction of the fixed cost per unit. Okay, and you are enjoying that economies of scale. Now you have some money with you. You are able to save some amount, because expenditure has come down. Now what can you do? You can think of selecting one of the better technologies, or else Change the technology that is present in your organization. Shift to newer technologies. As a result, what can happen? You can still go for better volume of production, and go for automation, go for mechanization. As a result, what will happen? Volume of production volume will increase, and that helps you to enjoy economies of scale. So investment can be done on the latest technologies because of the lower fixed cost. A transport firm can transport 40 tons per trip in a Volvo truck instead of having 4 trucks of 10-ton capacity. That is another advantage. You can go for a newer technology. In other words, a better truck instead of going for smaller trucks. So if you have that much of capacities uh, that can be filled, 40 ton, if a truck having a capacity of 40 tons can be filled from one city, why do you run 4 trucks having 10-ton capacity? Why can't you purchase one truck having 40-ton capacity? That saves the amount on the driver, cleaner, fuel. It saves time. It saves the it has lesser risk now, because only one vehicle will be plying on road instead of 4 vehicles. These are all some of the advantages. Introduction of IT in warehousing and logistics against manual handling of goods. This is another advantage. See how technology can help to manage the higher volume. Earlier, in any of the grocery shops or in any of the malls or super bazaars, there used to be few managers whose sole job was to count the number of each items at the end of the day. They had to give the count. So after the shop was closed, their job started. Overnight they used to do. They used to count the number of product A, product B, product C, product D, and what was there at the beginning: stock opening, stock closed. That is the difference between stock closed and the stock opening. That was the amount of product sold on that particular day. That was the job of the manager. But what is the job for him now? Does he have any job? Not at all. His job is to just maintain whether everyone is doing the job properly or not. Even that is also not necessary. He need not have to wander around the factory. I mean to say, any of the super bazaar. CC camera can be fit in the strategic positions at key points. He can watch sitting at one point, sitting in an AC room. He can control everything. And fixing the public address system. He can even need not have to go there. From here he can address them. Employee number 344. What is the problem? He can inquire. This is the advantage of IT. Now because of the barcoding system, at the end of the day, the manager will know what was the stock opening and what is the closing stock, or how much has been sold, and when should the products should be replenished in the sense when it should be ordered, reorder point, what we term it as reorder point in inventory management, when it should be reordered, when it will reach the stores. Everything can be done sitting at one point. That is the advantage of information technology, and as a result they can store more number of products in their super bazaar, in their shop now. Earlier that was not possible because it was hell of a difficulty for managers, but now managers can go for higher volume because of IT sector. Found this in China for building Statue of Unity. Let me take this example. Statue of Unity, when they were constructing, they wanted to create some molds, very big molds, because the size of the statue was so huge, and they wanted more number of such molds and more number different types of molds and all those things. The quantity was very huge. They searched everywhere. Even they tried at India because they wanted to indigenize everything, but they could not. Indian foundries could not go up to that production volume. Finally, they had to go to China, and Chinese foundries supplied the molds. So this is this is the example of Chinese had that technology because of the higher volume. From almost every other country go to China because of that particular technology in foundries. No other country has that technology. Third factor or third reason how I can enjoy the economies of scale is pooling of buffer capacities and inventories. Let me explain what a buffer capacity is. Buffer capacity is the cushioning capacity. See, for example, I am running an industry. I have ordered for some raw material, and that is very much required for me, and that gets delayed by say 1 week, maybe due to transportation problem. Let me take the example of the pandemic. Because of this, what will happen? Raw materials will not reach on time. So many travel restrictions, it has to cross so many checkpoints, it cannot flow smoothly, it cannot travel smoothly. As a result, it gets delayed. It will come maybe 2 days, 3 days delayed. Can my production work stop? It cannot, or it should not. How to take care of that kind of a situation? In under that situation, I need to have a buffer stock that will provide cushioning effect for my production. My production will not stop. That is the meaning of cushioning effect. Even though I have not received fresh stock of raw material, my old stock is sufficient for me to take up production job up to say 3-4 days. By that time, fresh stock will arrive and my production will not stop at all. That is termed as buffer capacity. See, for example, what happens if the firms keep their activities in house, they have to keep buffer capacities and inventories to take care of the uncertainties in demand. That's what I said. All of a sudden, demand may increase. I was talking about the supply problem, supply delay. In the similar way, demand may increase all of a sudden. See, for example, oxygen supply in the present pandemic, the need for the oxygen supply has increased a lot, and these manufacturing industries which were having oxygen plants for their purpose, now they have ramped up their production capacity twice, 3 times, 4 times, right? So in that way, the increase in the demand is being met. They already had a higher capacity setup, so that they can manage the required demand now. That is the advantage of having the buffer capacity and the inventories. A supplier, on the other hand, is able to pool certainties over a larger number of customers. As a result, needs much lower levels of buffer capacity and safety inventory. As a supplier, what will he do? He will manage, he will say, instead of making shortage of supply for one customer, he will distribute that shortage to many customers. Instead of 100 units shortage of supply to one customer, he will make 10 customers with a shortage of supply of 10 units. So this is the advantage of buffer capacities and buffer inventories, provided he has a buffer capacity. See, for example, a logistics from a firm that transports Maruti cars from Gurgaon to Bangalore. Gurgaon has the Maruti factory there, and they supply to Bangalore, say. And while going back to Delhi, should it go Empty? No need. Bangalore is the hub for many things like say mattresses, garment industries. It is the hub, and even many manufacturing takes place. Mechanical manufacturing takes place in Bangalore. Pharma companies are there. Lot many pharma companies are there in Bangalore. What these people can do, instead of going empty, they can load their trucks with these available materials which are not there in Delhi, Gurgaon, and thereby they can manage the traveling costs, or they can reduce the transportation costs. Another example is Ro-Ro rail service. It's a wonderful example. In fact, just previous 3-4 days ago, you might have seen, that is during the second week of third week, second or third week of April. Uh, I mean to say, oxygen trucks were loaded onto goods rail, not the cylinders, the entire truck. That is Ro-Ro rail. So, see now what is the difficulty if these cylinder oxygen tankers, if they move on road, it's very difficult, because roads have their own problem. Traffic congestion will happen and so many problems will happen, and you would have seen one chief minister complains about the other chief minister, they are stopping, and all. It's a mud sledging business between various governments. Instead of that, they can go for Ro-Ro rail service. There is no stoppage of rail service. It keeps on chugging between station to station, and transportation time also gets reduced. Fuel is saved, and driver is not necessary, and there is no need for the driver. Suppose let us assume I want to transport 10 cylinders of 10 tankers of oxygen from Delhi to Bangalore. I will prefer a goods train, Ro-Ro rail service. I will send it via train. No drivers required. Otherwise, I had to hire 10 drivers. Now, railway will carry that for me. At Bangalore, I will hire 10 drivers who can take care of local trips, which is very easy for me, very convenient. That is how I can use the uh, buffer capacity. That's Ro-Ro rail service itself is a buffer capacity. Railway has that buffer capacity. They are using it for such emergency purposes. Learning curve effect. This is another important aspect. Experience matters. What is the meaning of this learning curve effect? Experience matters. Why would a company hire people with experience? If everything could have been managed by freshers, why would they want experienced people? It's they also know that learning matters, experience matters. Experience makes production faster and cheaper. That is one of the major observations. In several industries, it is found that doubling of cumulative production, the average cost declines by 10 to 20%. See, because of experience, the cost of production has been observed to reduce by 10 to 20%. This is the learning curve. See here, on the x-axis, I have the representatives, and on the y-axis I have the expertise. Expert, good, average, better, bad. I have divided it into 5 categories. See, this is a very steep curve. White one, this is a very steep curve. What does that mean? Easy procedure, learned quickly, many experts are there. And how many representatives are required? Just about 55, 60. That's all. Because of the experience, they have got the experience and they are able to learn quickly, and They reached the expertise at a very quick time. That helped the organization to reduce its cost of production. Whereas look at the green curve, it's very, very flat. What does that mean? Difficult procedure, learned slowly and painfully, few experts. Because of that particular thing, many representatives are required, and it has taken more number of days for them to reach that expertise. As a result, cost of production is more. I am spending more on their training. They are not learning properly. The technology could also be difficult. Their learning ability could also be very, very slow. That's why people prefer experienced people, and in order to reap the advantages of learning curve, there has to be a balanced mixture of new faces and the old people. Experienced people must also be there, new faces must also be there, in order to have a balanced setup. Various costs come into picture in this regard. First one is the agency cost. While enjoying the economies of scale, I have to reduce various costs. Let us discuss one by one. First one is the agency cost. What is that agency cost? See, for example, an expert in the IT department, how can he ensure whether marketing departments is doing its job properly or not? Can he have something ideas for the marketing department? It's very difficult. How do you do that particular job without any slackening? Slackening in the sense waste of time. It's a waste of time, lose time. Lose time in the sense lose files, waste of file space. It's termed as slackening in software parlance. This issue is known as the agency problem in economics literature. The IT department is known as the agent, and the marketing department is known as the principal. See, IT department is an expert in developing the software. Let it do its job. Marketing firms are best in doing the marketing job. Let them do that marketing job. Let IT department, don't let the IT department do the marketing job, or don't let the marketing department to do the software development job. That is what we do. And if anybody tries to do that, their agency cost will increase. That should not happen. That's what I have been telling you. Do what you are good at. Don't do what is not suitable for you. A firm with its own fleet of trucks faces similar problem in motivating the transport department. See, you have purchased 100 trucks. Okay, that's a good thing. You can say that I can manage the transportation, so I can reach everything on time. Okay, that's a good thing. Amazon does that. Amazon has its own facility and tries to reach the customer at a faster time. That's a good thing. But what is the headache? Amazon has the headache of managing the entire transportation. It has to hire drivers, it has to maintain those trucks. If something goes wrong, it has to take care of them. Whereas if it is outsourced, then it is the headache of the company X, which has taken the job of transportation from this parent company. As a result, agents can reduce the agency cost. In hierarchical firm, there is a greater control over the coordination, but there may not be enough motivation for the internal supplier to work on. See, in a hierarchical firm, the entire control will be by the parent company. Yeah, coordination is good, everything is wonderful, but the problem is you have to motivate them. Can you motivate them properly? Then you are successful. If you if you cannot motivate them, then you are under risk. The costs will increase. The cost involved in control and coordination of internal supply is termed agency cost in economics. That's what I was telling you. The more I do the internal job, more risk is taken, and that increases the agency cost. It's quite common that managers and workers of internal supply units sometimes knowingly do not act in the best interests of the firms. That is major unethical practice in many of the industries. What does what does that mean? It means that many a times people hide the facts. Uh, they will not reveal that such problems are there in the organization. And if they reveal that such problems are there, then the organizations may take actions against them. Due to fear of that, they try to hide these things, which is totally unacceptable. Lack of competitiveness make it difficult for the firms to measure its actual potential. See, there is no competition. Lack of competitiveness in the sense nobody feels that I need to grow. I need to change. I need to change with the world. As a result, what happens, even though you can learn, you cannot learn, your actual potential cannot be tapped because you are we are not upgrading ourselves. We are not competitive enough to upgrade ourselves. चलता है. This is the mentality which will kill any organization. चलता है concept. That should not be the case of any firm that thrives hard, that that is very keen on improving itself. After agency costs, let us discuss about transaction costs. Transaction costs means these are the costs involved in using the market mechanism, which can be avoided if those relevant activities are brought inside the firm. These costs are known as transaction costs. See, for example, see, one of the transaction cost is search and information cost. Cost involved in locating and evaluating the right supplier. It's a transaction in the sense that is what is necessary for me to move the finished goods from the company to the market. Okay, for example, I need some raw materials, or I need to go for have a proper transportation company. I need to search them because I have to make sure that they do it promptly, they do it as per my requirement, they do not compromise with the quality. All those issues must be taken care, and that needs some time, that needs some amount of human resource. That is termed as search and information costs. Next one is bargaining and contracting cost. Once you have identified the supplier, start bargaining. He will say, I will charge 100 rupees, and you say, no, it's not possible, 90 rupees, and keep on bargaining, and again that consumes time. That is termed as bargaining and contracting costs. Policing and enforcement costs, that is the third category of transaction costs. You just for the reason you have authorized company ABC to take care of the transportation, to take care of the marketing, you cannot sit back and enjoy. You need to do some policing, you need to do some monitoring, and you have to enforce them. And if they are not doing their job as per the agreement, you need to ask them, and you need to bring them to their feet. So that is termed as policing and enforcement cost. And for that again you need to have a separate team. separate human resource team. That will cost you. That is termed as transaction cost. Cost incurred because of loss of control. See, sometimes you did not do the policing properly, and the trucks which should have arrived within 3 days, and if it takes 5 days, your customer is not happy, and because of that you would have lost some business, and that is termed as cost incurred due to loss of control. Someone else entered the market, someone else took your customer away from you, and that's a big loss for you, and that is termed as cost incurred because of loss of control. That is another category of transaction costs. Third category of cost that will add to uh, my loss is that incomplete contracts. What are those incomplete contracts? It is possible and necessary to write a complete contract that stipulates each party's responsibility. See, when I am entering a contract with the supplier, I need to make it complete, but many a times it won't be complete because of the following reasons, which are the bounded rationality. Managers have a limited capacity to process information. They will not know each and every aspect of the negotiation. Many regulatory changes would have come, managers may not be aware of that. Technological changes would have come, they may not be aware of that. Market conditions may not be updated. See, because of these reasons, there could be some flaws in the contract. That is termed as bounded rationality. Difficulties in specifying or measuring performance. You cannot measure performance just for the reason you have hired some graduates. Can you measure their performance? It's very difficult. You can assign them some work. You can say that you have assigned them some work. It's not that easy to measure the performance of a human being. You can measure the performance of a machine. Yes, it's a machine. You can measure it. But human beings' performance cannot be measured so easily. So that is another reason why you cannot make the contract complete. You may say that I have hired 100 people. There are 100 engineering graduates on bench. So I can complete the entire project in 3 months. You can say that. But can you really meet that? That's the big question. Normally that cannot happen because you have not measured their performance properly, due to which uh, the contract is incomplete. Instead of 3 months, it may shoot up to 4 months, 5 months, which you could not know. Asymmetry of information. There may be asymmetry of information at the time of writing of the contract. For example, see certain information about future changes either in technology or the supply market. Information may not be symmetrical. I may not get a proper information. That is another major flaws. One of the major flaws. Why that happens? Because I am not updated. I did not get the information on time. My supply chain itself is like that. Many reasons are there. The inability to write a complete contract results in significant increase in the cost of transacting business through the market exchange and includes the following situations. What are those situations? Presence of relationship specific assets. You need to have a very bonding relationship. Okay, I have already given you the example of Toyota that has 129 companies under its umbrella. As a result, what happens? The firm will be able to improve the efficiency of the transactions and reduce the costs in the process if supplier can invest on some specialized assets, and that is one of the prior conditions for any company to get under the umbrella of Toyota. If you want to become a partner with Umbrella, you should partner with the Toyota, I mean to say. What is necessary is that you should be ready to change. If they ask you to shift over to lean manufacturing system, you should be ready. If they ask you to follow particular technology, you should be follow that. If they ask you to follow 5 years, that is another TQM principle you need to follow. Poor coordination affecting supply chain performance. Many a times it so happens that there is no proper coordination between the distributor and the retailer. Coke and Pepsi, both of them suffered because of this. There was a huge indifference between the distributor and the major supplier of the bottles. Distributor was complaining on the manufacturing company that was supplying bottles to this distributor, and the company used to blame it on the distributor that they are not giving us the proper feedback. And finally both Pepsi and Coke had to intervene in this matter, and they took the control of the entire company. Now Pepsi and Coke, they manage the manufacturing, or their presence in the manufacturing firm is more, and that problem could be solved. Leakage of strategic information resulting in adverse supply chain performance. That's very, again, another unethical practice. In a supply chain, customers, suppliers, distributors, there are many people. All of them need to have a proper coordination. All of them should feel that this is my family. Industry is my family. And if I give any such information that may help my competitor, it affects me. But many companies do not follow that. And that is the reason why Toyota says you have to supply it to me only. If it allows many other players to come into their suppliers firm, then there are many chances that secrets of Toyota, design of Toyota can be leaked, and that should not happen. All these issues contribute to transaction costs of market exchange. So transaction costs will increase because of these issues. If the transaction costs are substantially high, the firm is better off by bringing the activities in-house. So if you are not able to manage it by outsourcing, it's better that you bring it in-house, because you are not able to control the cost of transaction. Information may be getting leaked, and there is no proper relationship between you and the supplier, and there is no proper coordination between various players of the supply chain. You are having so many issues. It's better that you start doing it in-house.